Hey, welcome back on the Good Morning Artesia radio show. And we have Mayor Raye Miller with us, and the city council met last night, and we've been kind of letting the mayor go through and recapping the discussions and actions. Where did you want to pick back up?
Right. Well, we had several other things that were very important last night. We have in our city 2 retirement programs. Each employee can actually pick PERA, Public Employee Retirement Account, or they can pick diversified, which is like a more traditional 401k. So last night we needed to add a couple of members to our 401k, or what we call diversified board. Resolution 1763 appointed a couple of additional members there. Then we had the next resolution also dealt with the diversified, because initially when a lot of this was set up years ago, the city matches a 3-to-1 contribution to whatever the employee has withdrawn from his salary, whether it's withdrawn for PERA or whether it's withdrawn for the diversified. Well, those were set years ago. The state has required over the years increasing contributions by the employee and the employer to where we now are paying more, or have been for the last few years, than what we're actually doing for our diversified. And so what we did in Resolution 1764 was ask our employees who are in diversified to increase their contribution by 1%, and the city increased its contribution by 3%, to wind up getting it closer to where it's similar to the PERA. Of course, the concern in doing that, and that was approved by the council, the concern in doing that is the fact that the employee, by paying more to his retirement program out of his paycheck, would have a lower net take-home pay. And so the next item that the council considered is we did a 2% pay increase for all of our employees. It didn't matter whether they were PERA or diversified, but that way the ones who are diversified, who would be paying 1% more, will actually get a 2% raise, which by the time we take off taxes and stuff should make their net take-home pay not be any less than what they actually are receiving now. It also wound up being a thing where the council approved a 1% increase in our entry-level positions, because what we have done in years past is we would give our employees a raise, but we wouldn't change any of our salary schedules, and so our beginning entry-level positions were still at a very low rate, which were not competitive with surrounding communities. But at the same time, we really don't want to raise our beginning rates to where somebody who's been with us for 3 months and we hire somebody into the same job classification makes the same, because obviously the 3-month employee now is more knowledgeable, has been better trained. So that's why the 2%, 1% was just to try to account for a new person wouldn't make the same as even a relatively new employee doing the same work. It's also a thing where the council looked at adopting a retention stipend for our employees, and this would be done in November. And last year we did a couple of different stipends. They were 6-month retention at $2,500. And so the employee basically signed a contract. If they received the $2,500, then they had to work for us for 6 months. If they quit, let's say after 3 months, then they were obligated to pay back $1,250 because they didn't fulfill the 6 month. It's trying to keep our good employees for as long as we can. And council actually approved last night a $5,000 1-year retention for our full-time employees, $2,500 for our part-time employees. And also we're looking at possibly receiving some funds from an outside party for police and fire, and if we are successful at concluding that, we'll actually award certified police and certified fire a 1-year $7,000 retention award. And it's also a thing where included in that was the fact that, like currently in our fire department, we have people who are in training to become certified fire EMS. Well, they're not eligible as trainees for that, but once they become certified, let's say that they actually receive their certification in January or February, they will be eligible to receive the $7,000 with the end date being still October 31st. So their prorated repayment schedule would be based on whenever they became certified through October 31st, so that it would be a real incentive. It's a carrot, an apple for them to actually do. Likewise, for some of our regular employees who are new employees who are on their 6-month probation, they will be eligible for the incentive as soon as they come off of probation. And part of the rationale is that, our greatest turnover is obviously in our new employees. And once they pass probation or once they become certified, then the chances of them staying with us for a long time is much higher. And we appreciate our employees, and obviously through this last year, many of the departments have, with the hiring freeze, have lost employees to where a lot of our employees have had to work a lot harder to try to keep things in as good a shape as they are. One example that I use periodically is our Streets and Parks Department. Prior to COVID, they were 14 employees. Today, they're 9 employees. Well, that's because we lost 5 employees due to attrition. But, unfortunately, they are struggling, obviously, to cut all the grass in the summer at our parks and still maintain the street repairs that need to be done because they're 5 people short. It's a huge reduction in their department. And certainly the council is going to have to look at certain departments to see if things, our revenues have actually been improving. Obviously, the work that has been going on over here at the refinery with the new biodiesel facility, as well as the turnaround that they're involved in now, has really added to the gross receipts and lodging in our community. It's short-term economic development, but it's really been felt in a very strong way. I was crossing the street going to church the other day with a man who I didn't know. We got to visiting, and we had traffic on Grand Street on a Sunday morning. So we had a chance to visit while all the cars were going by. And when we crossed, he says, well, I'm actually part of the problem because I've been here a month, and I'll be here 1 more month. I'm working out at the refinery on the project out there. And I looked at him and I says, sir, you're actually a blessing because you're adding to our economy, and we appreciate you coming to church. And it's a great thing to have those type of things. And I look at, economic development around our state. They're always talking about, this movie's going to be in for 10 days in the state doing this short film, and it'll add this many jobs. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, but we're giving them a credit that may actually exceed or be as great as what they're spending inside the state. Well, the refinery actually undertook a $350 million biodiesel rail and plant facility addition. They didn't get any money from the state. They didn't ask for any property abatement of taxes from the county. They didn't ask the city for any special privileges. It's true economic development, and hopefully it extends the life of the plant and facility here for many years to come and adds permanent jobs.
It's one of those head-scratching things there. Now, if that had been a marijuana diesel plant, then maybe you would have gotten some activity from some state officials. But let me ask you this: you said the retention bonuses, that was a continuation of a program that has been in place for a while, or did you?
We had last year, we did a couple when we received some of the state money The council recognized that our employees had, obviously not seen raises and stuff, and so we did 2 different 6-month periods of, I believe it was $2,000 each period. We have, this year we have actually received some additional money from the federal government through the state, which, some of the communities who didn't have the problems with gross receipts, they've got to find particular uses for those that actually qualify. We believe because of our significant downturn in gross receipts that we can actually utilize these money to replace, lost revenue into our general fund. And as a result, we saw it as an opportunity to try to actually provide our employees with a one-time thing. It doesn't raise their base salary, so it doesn't raise our ongoing cost in future years of salaries, but it comes at a really good time here right before the holiday season when
Sure.
everybody's trying to spend a little more, and unfortunately many folks go into debt. I always encourage our employees to save part of it because, a lot of folks don't have savings to where if they have a rainy day, if the car breaks down, it's a crisis, to just afford the repair bill.
Has the council, did they weigh doing that? Obviously, they approved that versus maybe going ahead and hiring some people to fill some of these positions that you have on the freeze.
The first thing is to take care of our existing employees because they've been with us through the struggle. And so you want to recognize them first. There's discussions, and we will actually be approaching our department heads to have them try to identify where the critical shortages actually are so that council can then try to see if our revenues continue to be relatively strong. Can we add some positions back and open up some hiring into certain areas that would actually provide some relief for the folks who have been a little overtaxed in their occupations. But that's why, in the fact that they're the ones who have gotten us through, you really need to take care of your existing employees before you start looking at adding employees. And I appreciate the council's wisdom at making sure that we try to do something for our existing employees first and then see if there are areas that we can justify raising our overall total cost.
Okay. Got about 4 minutes left in this segment. Would there be some other things to cover? The
only other thing is we had to do a resolution for our election. We did that. And then in December, we only have one meeting, and we set that date for December 14th. And then we talked a little bit about Halloween. We obviously have done a proclamation to request that folks observe Halloween on Saturday night instead of Sunday night. I know there's been some controversy over that.
A little discussion, yeah.
One lady called me and told me that, she already had her work schedule set where she could do it Sunday night and couldn't do it Saturday night. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, ma'am. And in fact, we probably should have thought about it earlier. Unfortunately, we didn't until the council meeting before. And so as a result, but to me, it makes sense. It's a thing where this community largely doesn't have youth sports activities on Wednesday night because of church. And obviously, Sunday, we have not had youth sports activities, and as a result, it also is a thing where the kids going to school on Monday, if they're out trick-or-treating late and then they go home and they eat all the candy and then they're up all night with the sugar high, they probably aren't learning much on Monday.
But there's not going to be a trick-or-treat enforcement squad running around town on Sunday.
No. And, Councilor Moreau said that he was going to trick-or-treat both nights and he was going to hand out candy both nights. And I says, well, I've already thankfully been to Walmart before the shelves became kind of bare.
That's true.
Because we usually have quite a few folks come to our neighborhood for trick-or-treating, and I've prepared 250 individual quart-sized bags with 14 individually all wrapped candies inside each bag so that, the first 250 trick-or-treaters that come to my house
On Saturday.
Will actually receive a nice bag of candy. Well, I mean, in my neighborhood, the lots are a little larger, so, people are walking further to get from house to house. Not all the neighbors actually, they just turn their lights out and don't answer the door. And so I figure if folks come to my neighborhood, then they ought to at least be rewarded with a nice thing. Now, sometimes it's hard to get the bag of candy in the little container that the kids are carrying.
That's true.
But anyway.
And Main Street has their big deal on Saturday night, and the highway department agreed to close the street down. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and it's a thing where I think some of the churches are still having some activities on Sunday evenings, and that's great. I mean, I don't have any objection to what people decide to do, but it just seemed like, obviously there have been times when we had a football game on Friday night and Halloween fell on Friday that they moved it to Saturday. Just seems like in this community, with as many folks as who are faithful to church, and many of the churches hold Sunday evening services, that it made sense to actually consider that. I mean, I see our community as faith, family, and fellowship as being our strongest points, and I'm thankful for that, because truly it's a thing where I see us as being very different from most of the large metropolitan areas around the country, both in our work ethic and in our faith beliefs.
Mayor Raye Miller, thank you so much for your time. We always appreciate it. And we'll see you again next time.
All right. Take care.
This is KSVP.